And I knew, you know, we could be nice, but I truly believe in olive leaf in this hand, hammer in this one.
Some of the biggest security changes since 9/11 have happened at airports, including those controversial body scanners. News Channel 5's Bob Jones spoke to travelers about these changes.
Extra ID checks, watch lists, body scans, shoe removal, and restrictions on liquids, gels, and aerosols. Just some of the security changes at U.S. airports since 9/11. 10 years later, passengers still have to pack their patience.
Just a lot of inconveniences that really don't seem to add up to more security.
Before 9/11, you could travel pretty freely, take a lot of things on the airplane that you can't take now.
10 years ago, my loved ones, they could come all the way to the gate to see me off. Now they can't.
Since 9/11, Akron-Canton Airport has spent more than $15 million in security upgrades, much of it a direct result of the terrorist attacks. And changes are still coming. Construction is underway to expand the security area and make way for the sometimes controversial full-body scanners.
It protects privacy at a much higher level than some of the earlier models of the scanners.
The Transportation Security Administration, created after 9/11, has screened nearly 5 billion passengers since 2001 and detected 50 million prohibited items, including 4,600 guns.
I feel safer knowing that it's difficult for them to get things on a plane.
Flying is undoubtedly safer today than it was 10 years ago.
But some passengers say they don't feel safer when flying, even with the extra security measures.
All that we're doing is we're making travel less and less convenient for the people who are not trying to get around it.
Unfortunately, we still have a very vulnerable system.
University of Akron Assistant Professor Andrew Thomas has written 5 books on aviation and transportation security. Coincidentally, his first book on unruly passengers came out 10 years ago on 9/11. Thomas is an outspoken critic of TSA.
But we've also created this monster that now is out of control. It's a Frankenstein that can't be reined in.
Thomas calls TSA a billion-dollar over-screening agency that hassles passengers. He believes TSA should be downsized and workers should pay more attention to cargo and background checks on airport workers.
We've put those resources in places that really don't do a whole lot in terms of impacting the risk to the system that's posed by criminals and terrorists.
Thomas says there are 2 important security improvements since 9/11. Cockpit doors are now reinforced, and passengers, forced to become more vigilant, have become counter-terrorism officials, watching for anything that could put their safety at risk.
I mean, the safer the better, so I'm all for it.
In Akron, Bob Jones, News Channel 5.
Last year, TSA started air cargo screening on domestic and international flights, a key security requirement of the 9/11 Act. And this year, TSA launched a pilot behavior detection program in Boston. Passengers who act suspicious in casual conversation are referred for further screening. Let's go back to Danita now in New York City.
Thanks a lot, Lee. Well, as I'm standing here on the 10th floor of 2 World Financial Center, I want you to take a look behind me as my cameraman zooms down, and you can see where the workers are still working on the stage, preparing for Sunday ceremonies to commemorate the 10th anniversary of 9/11. I actually had a chance to listen in on some of the rehearsals today. A children's choir rehearsed. We also heard some bagpipes playing as well. Lots of activity going on here in Lower Manhattan preparing for Sunday. But as most of you know, 9/11 changed a lot of things in our world. It also changed the sports world. Sports director Andy Baskin explains.
9/11 changed the way we look at sports. Rather than a venue to cheer our teams to victory, places like Yankee Stadium became a shrine to heal a heavy heart for America during a 9/11 memorial service. Watching games with more than 100,000 friends became something we didn't take for granted. Walking into a place like the Horseshoe in Columbus made you look twice at the person sitting next to you.
Right now, you know, people are making some serious decisions it's to some extent maybe slightly more serious than a football game.
The Browns, well, they were already ahead of the game. After the team returned in 1999, plans were already in place to make sure Cleveland Browns Stadium was ahead of the curve in terms of fan violence. But a terrorist attack plan also became something that was needed on the lakefront.
You plan for a natural disaster. You plan for fan violence. I mean, these are all things that are part of the planning that we do. And so this just took us in a different direction. We were thinking about it. I mean, we were not to the degree that we have right now because there was never that threat before. And as you know, security is based on available intelligence. And now we have the intelligence, and that's why we're doing things that we're doing right now.
Because the Browns were so far ahead of the curve on security, in many ways, they wrote the book for the NFL and all sports on how to have a secure stadium after 9/11 happened.
We're doing what we can to deter terrorism. But it's also up to the individual's responsibility. If you see something that doesn't look right, you need to be letting somebody know about it.
On the outside, things are just different. More checkpoints, more security, things that we're just used to now. It's just a part of life in a post-9/11 world. 10 years ago, it was about ripping a ticket to get in the game. Now it's about knowing the person before they even walk in the gate. Andy Baskin, News Channel 5.
And the NFL has planned several tributes for this Sunday's games all around the country, paying honor to those who lost their lives on September 11th as well. One can't ignore the current terror threat being here live at Ground Zero. New Yorkers are aware of it. Visitors who are here this weekend are aware of it. But as I talk to many of them today, there's no fear, there's no change in their plans this weekend because they say they have an attitude that nothing is going to stop them from paying tribute to those who lost their lives. They're walking around, as you would say, business as usual. There is a sense of pride here in New York City. Everyone coming by to look at Ground Zero, to look at the names on the walls of the two sunken pools behind me, to admire the red, white, and blue on the Freedom Tower to my right. Everyone is here for the right reason, the reason that we're here, to remember 9/11. So the question is, do you feel safe 10 years later? We will explore that when we return.
And my secretary walked up behind me and whispered in my ear that I needed to call the meeting off and come see the TV in our office. And I walked in just in time to see the second tower get hit.